The gun choices in Lioness Season 2 tell you right away what kind of problems Joe, Cruz, and the QRF team expect to walk into. It's in the little tells. How a handgun's size actually reads in the grip. What a rifle's layout suggests about how it's meant to be carried. And which long guns only show up when the mission turns into a distance problem. Across Joe, Cruz, and the QRF, you keep seeing the same smart patterns repeat in different scenes. Like the loadouts were built for specific jobs, not just to look cool. So what do those patterns say about how this team expects to survive? Joe carries a Glock 48 when she's trying to stay low profile. And you see it during those quick, tense moments where she needs a slim pistol without making a big deal out of it. The Glock 48 is a 9x19mm Slimline design, meaning it is roughly compact pistol length, but noticeably thinner through the grip and slide than a double-stack Glock. The standard setup is a 10-round magazine, and that's the whole trade. Flatter carry and easier concealment over raw capacity. A lot of 48s are the MOS pattern, built to accept micro-optics on the slide without custom machining, which fits the season's constant, fast sight picture vibe. From there, in the kill house space, the next sidearm looks Glock-shaped at a glance, and the key detail is it's built around a separate steel receiver that changes how the whole gun can be configured. Josefina tries a Zev Technologies OZ9 for the first time on the range, then carries it straight into the CQB house to see if it still feels right when things get fast. The OZ9 is a striker-fired 9x19mm pistol built around Gen 3 style Glock pattern geometry. So it stays in that Glock ecosystem where it accepts Glock magazines and shares a lot of the same parts logic. What makes it different is Zev's serialized steel receiver running through the frame like a chassis, which is the core that everything else hangs on. And instead of the classic Glock grip angle, the OZ9 goes with a steeper, more natural 1911-ish angle. One of those subtle details that changes how the pistol tends to point in the hand. From there, once she's out of the shoot house and the vibe turns tense, the next handgun choice goes the opposite direction. And the key detail is a tiny 5-shot revolver built to stay snag-free. Pablo Carrillo brings a Smith & Wesson Model 642 into play in The Compass Point's Home. And it's the kind of gun that signals last ditch even before anyone says a word. The 642 is a J-frame revolver chambered in .38 Special, usually seen in modern form as .38 Special plus P rated, with a 5-round cylinder and a lightweight alloy frame that keeps it pocket-friendly. The big tell is the Centennial-style enclosed hammer, which is why it draws cleanly without an exposed spur catching on clothing. Mechanically, it's still classic double-action revolver business, a rotating cylinder and a long trigger pull that does the whole cycle. From there, once the situation grows past handguns, the next jump is a 5.56 carbine tied to top-tier units. And the standout detail is it's an improved M4 upper, built around a 14.5-inch setup. Cody J shoulders a Colt M4A1 URG-I when Delta Force elements roll in. URG-I stands for Upper Receiver Group Improved, and it's essentially a modernization package for the M4A1 ecosystem meant to refresh the older SOP-mod era baseline without reinventing the whole rifle. You're still in 5.56 by 45mm NATO, still using the standard AR pattern manual of arms, and still feeding from common Stanag magazines, typically 30-rounders. The improved part tends to mean a more modern free-float rail and a different barrel and gas setup than the old-school carbine pattern, aiming for a smoother, more consistent feel while staying parts compatible with an M4A1 lower. That leads straight into the team's other main rifle lane, where the next gun keeps the short barrel aggression but swaps the whole operating idea. And the tell is a piston system with a rear end that can fold without killing the rifle. Joe runs a SIG Sauer MCX-SPEAR LT as the season's main go-to rifle when the QRF is moving like a real package. And it's a clear, modern piston gun choice. The SPEAR LT is a 5.56 rifle in the show's common setup, but instead of the traditional AR direct impingement layout, it uses a short-stroke gas piston, which is one reason it's often associated with heavy-duty, suppressed-friendly use. It also ditches the need for a fixed buffer tube behind the receiver, which is why you'll see folding stock behavior that a standard AR can't pull off without special workarounds. Even with that different internal architecture, it still lives in the familiar world of AR pattern magazines and controls, which matters for a team that has to grab, go, and stay consistent. From there, when the job suddenly demands real distance and real weight, Cruz gets handed something that looks oversized even next to carbines, and the giveaway is a .50 caliber semi-auto with a box magazine. Cruz handles a Barrett M107A1 briefly in episode 4, and it's the loudest "we're not playing around" signal you can put in someone's hands without going to crew-served weapons. The M107A1 is a recoil-operated, semi-automatic rifle chambered in 50 BMG, fed from a 10-round detachable box magazine, and built around the same family line as the earlier Barrett M82 rifles. The A1's whole identity is being a lighter, more updated version, designed around modern accessories and suppressor-ready features, while still doing what a .50 caliber does, delivering massive energy with a very long, effective reach compared to standard rifles. Even when it's only on screen for a moment, it changes the scale of the scene instantly. And then the season pivots to the other kind of Barrett entirely, where the next one isn't semi-auto at all. And the key detail is a bolt gun adopted in a .338 class chambering. Cody switches to a Barrett MRAD Mark 22 for overwatch work in the compass point's home, and it's the precision counterpart to that .50 caliber shock and awe option. The Mark 22 is a bolt-action, magazine-fed sniper rifle system built around modularity, with a reputation for converting between calibers like 7.62 by 51 NATO, 300 Norma Magnum, and 338 Norma Magnum, depending on the configuration. In the show, it's presented in the 338 Norma lane, which fits the reach out and stay precise role without dragging a .50 caliber into every problem. It typically uses a 10-round detachable magazine and a rigid aluminum chassis with an adjustable folding stock, which is basically the modern long-range rifle blueprint. Once that bolt gun shows up, it makes the whole season's weapon logic easy to read, because now you've seen every rung on the ladder. The answer is that Season 2 builds a clean survival plan. Slim, easy-to-hide 9mm for day-to-day carry. A tuned-up duty 9mm for the QRF when it's time to move fast. And then a tight stack of 5.56 carbines that stay familiar while scaling up from close and chaotic to organized and supported. That's why Joe's thin Glock 48 fits right next to the MCX-SPEAR LT's folded, piston-driven utility. And it's why Cruz touching the M107A1 only works because the Mark 22 exists as the precise, surgical long-range option. Lioness isn't chasing the biggest guns non-stop. It's choosing a consistent, modern escalation path that keeps the team fast until distance forces them to go heavy.